Look who snuck around the corner and didn't know I was here. And I said, hello, calmly. And I just sat here. He's like, oh, I think I'm going to move right along. Move right along. So I don't have any pet kitty cats these days, but I got lots of cats hanging around close by me. And I consider that an honor and a privilege because I really do appreciate these creatures. They're so smart and savvy and thoughtful and intuitive. Take the time to get to know some kitty cats. They're pretty cool creatures. Yeah, it's that time. That's right. Time to acclimatize them to outdoor. And especially given I've trouble managing them in the lab this year. They got taller and bigger than I wanted them to get. And so it's been tricky keeping enough moisture for them without them drying out between water cycles and management and such. So they're pretty stressed at this point. I may plug some of these in and then do some from seed direct next to them, and we'll see the difference between the critical points of influence. So all this stress. Well, part of the head gasket problem was the exhaust pipe got bent by a stick. We do still have a bad head gasket, for sure. But I was able to get it started with the bent exhaust off and get it up here where I can work on it. That's a lot better than being out away from, out by the road and out where I can't really get to it with tools and stuff. I want to be able to come up here and just focus. So, actually still runs, and she got back under her own power. So once again, I am super impressed with my Ford 9, and I love this tractor, and yeah, very glad to have this machine, despite all the repairs that I've had to do to it. I know when I get done making all the repairs, this will be a really strong, reliable machine for many years to come. And over the fall and winter, if I can afford it and get the time to do it, I want to clean this thing up and paint it, at least some of it, and get some of it cleaned up, and eventually make it a shiny, new, nice looking tractor. But that's a whole nother project after functional. Remember, functional before cosmetics, for those of you who think pretty is first. So they just finished haying this field, must have been this morning. Smells wonderful. Looks nice all laid out. I'm sure that'll dry fairly quickly and they'll be baling soon. Oh boy. So, due to, how do we say, mitigating circumstances, my foliar pump that I had for foliar feeds, these pumps aren't cheap, I might add, got messed up out in the weather in the place it was supposed to be stored where it's dry, and it wasn't dry, and so it got screwed up. And so I had bought this pump because my plan is to pull spring water from a fairly nearby spring and bring that down in stainless barrels, both for me for drinking and for the lab for plants. I bought this pump a couple months back, actually 6 months back, with the intent to complete that project. I got most of it done. I bought all kinds of fittings. I got most of it wired, but I have to finish that project. And I don't have time to finish that project right now. And the more pressing thing now is to get foliar feeds down on crops at the earliest critical points of influence so that we don't start accumulating yield loss right from planting the beginning of the season. So I need to get some foliar drenches down. I have a tremendous amount of square footage to cover, and we can't do it with a watering can. So I need to move a lot more volume than that. This is part of why I built this whole foliar feed pumping system. And so I have another flow jet pump, basically the same pump, but I'm gonna have to replace that. So that's another $400 out of my pocket at some point to replace it. Just kind of a pain in the butt. But it is what it is. At least I have one in stock. Got to take the positives and run with it, right? I got a new filter here from Amazon in a day. The first one I ordered, they said it would be here tomorrow, and then after the order went through, they're like, oh, we'll see you in July. And so I canceled it and ordered another one. Just been like that all week, all day, every day, ongoing. So just is what it is. Par for the course, shall we say. Anyway, so I've got a 55-gallon drum here. It came from a clean source. I'm going to rinse it out and rig it up for foliar feeds. I'm going to stick it in the car initially because I don't have the truck yet and the tractor's down. But eventually this is probably going to be set up to go on the tractor, and I'll probably put a boom setup on the tractor so I can just drive down the rows and foliar feed everything in one easy shot. But for now I have to stay with the targeted system I have because I don't have all my equipment still. So got to work within, within the parameters of the course we're playing, so to speak. It's kind of like golf. Life is kind of like golf. Got to play it as it lies. This is a FlowJet type pump, about 4.5 gallons a minute, 12 volt DC. It'll do just about 50 psi. These are great little pumps. They're a diaphragm type pump. These are like a very high quality motorhome type pump. So the triple diaphragm is one downside to it, but it's a positive side as well. This pump will self prime up to 8 vertical feet above a liquid water source. So that is a huge advantage for when you go to start up. You don't have to prime it or mess around with it. You can just turn it on and it'll draw suction up to 8 vertical feet over the water source. The downside is it does have the triple diaphragms in it. They are made from very high quality material. They're Santoprene valves in here, so they'll actually handle diesel oil and gasoline and all kinds of crazy materials. Obviously, we're not going to be pumping any of those onto our crops, but it's nice to know that we have valves that are up to the job. But the downside is they are diaphragm valves, and they're basically like little miniature suction cups, and they just kind of pulse back and forth. And so if you get sand or grit in them, you'll lose the suction cup effect, and then it won't pump. So the one thing you do have to do with this, if you're running this for foliar feeds, is put at least an 80 mesh filter in front of it. And I like the 80 mesh because it lets most of those larger fine particulates through to go onto plants and soils, but it doesn't let enough big enough particle material through to clog and damage the pump. You have to remember a lot of these formulas, foliar feed formulas, include things like rock dust or micronized materials that are actually abrasives, on a very small scale. So the trick is to not have abrasives that are so big that they won't flow through your pump. All right, I guess I'm done babbling about it for now. I'm going to put this together and try and get it on and get some foliar feeds and drenches down in the potatoes tonight. And maybe I can get another few steps along the way. It's coming together. It's another one of those gigs. The job before the job, before the job, before the job, before the job, before the job gets you. Having to assemble all different pieces together to make this work. At the end of the day, this is actually going to come out pretty sweet. And it'll be adaptable to go onto a tractor. Right now it's going to have to go in the car, and then eventually probably go on the truck. And then I don't know if I'll keep it on make it so it'll just slide on the truck and boom off the truck for foliar feeds, or off the car, or if I'm going to set it up for tractors. I probably will set it so it'll work on all of them. I have to figure out the engineering aspect of that, of course, but overall I think we're coming together here. So this is a two-piece system here, really, and it's not entirely together yet. We can see the other T-valve there that'll come off the other side of the pump. So 2 inputs, 2 outputs, and a suction line here coming out of the barrel. So this one input allows for a way to put water into the system so you can fill the barrel, and it also allows us to use this pump alternatively just to suck water up from a water source and pump to a location so we can actually do irrigation with it. And then the output lets us divert, whether we switch back to the barrel if we're mixing foliar feeds up. That's a nice way to mix foliars, because you can just keep pumping through the barrel while you're going from the mix-up point out to the spot where you're going to apply the foliar feed. There's time for it to blend up, and you keep it blended as you're going along, and then you can switch out and actually spray out at pressure when you're not back mixing. So that's why multiple outputs. Of course you could add other outputs and have a whole plenum of outputs if you wanted, but that's really not necessary at this time. At some point in the future I probably will set that up with another valve that goes off to the boom, so we can run the boom off of one thing and then spot foliar off another. But for now I'm just trying to get some foliar feeds on some crops that are wishing they had it right from the start. Alright, so it's almost together. This is taking a good portion of my day to get this together. But it is what it is. So the old valve, somehow the threads got broken on that, so we lose most of that. The threads are messed up on some of the other parts, so I just said screw it, we'll just replace it. I bought these 3-way valves for the spring system. That's a whole nother plumbing situation I'm not even going to bother explaining right now, but it's kind of nice for what we're doing here. We can go out to our foliar feed, we can go back to our remix, or we can do both at the same time, and we can regulate between the two. So that'll be kind of nice. So we can run some remix, and that'll let us adjust our pressure up or down at the output and still be able to mix back into the tank and keep things nice and uniform. So we just got to take the positive, what we can out of things, and move forward. So that's the message for me and you and everyone else in this wonderful planet today. So after much ado, I did get the foliar feed pump fully assembled last night. I get it in the car. There's not enough headroom to fit it. Yada yada yada. Monkey around. Lose a whole day. End of the day. I got it up there to the farm, but I could not move it with water in it. I didn't feel like I could secure it well enough to keep it from bouncing around. I don't want a 500-pound load bouncing around the back of the car. That's a good way to get killed. So I waited till I could get this stainless steel tank, so I'm using my spring water tanks to use house water, take it out to the farm so I can supply water for foliar feeds. And then we'll see how that rides and all, and I might be able to top up the 275 tanks or something up there as a way to have some sort of reserve. But really pushes me to go dig some deeper holes and find out whether or not we can hit a water table down by our potato planting there, because we are going to need water for foliar feeds. We may need it for irrigation too. I don't know how fast it's going to be able to get mulch down. I can go on all day, but basically we don't have a garden hose outlet here because the one that's here broke years back. So I'm tapping in off of the shower. I made an adapter for that, an adapter to get into the barrel, an adapter to get out of the barrel, an adapter for every kind of everything you can imagine for plumbing. And now we're getting ready to flow some water. So let's do it. And before you say, oh my God, Carlton, how are you going to figure out how the barrel's full? You'll know, number one, water will come out, and number two, I'll put the thermal camera on it. Let's roll. Just going to go ahead and send it. Just going to send it. Oh no, that's a pretty sound. That sound is a relief. So I opted for a little bit of overflow insurance there. Didn't think it was a bad idea in case I get distracted with the task, because that does happen. Don't want to come back and find a swimming pool. I also kind of want to keep an eye on this for weight reasons, because I don't know that we're going to be able to put a full barrel in here. The car is rated for 1,200 pounds carrying capacity as passengers or laden weight or whatever you want to call it. But it is 2002, so you know, it's not a brand new car, and I don't want to hurt it because it's a great little vehicle. So that's quite the reflective material there, huh? You can see my emissivity actually reflecting off of the shiny surface of the stainless steel barrel. You can even see the cigarette in my hand here right next to the phone. So that's kind of cool. You see my jacket. But we can also see the bottom of that barrel starting to show some cold. As it fills, you should be able to tell pretty easily. Right, you can see that fitting is cold already, so I'll have to keep an eye on it so I don't flood my car. Yeah, so we're up over the barrel bung now. So there you go. That baffle setup on the input-output is working. So I'm going to call that good right there because it's pretty heavy. Oh, hey, there we go. We're just overflowing now out of the pop. So she's completely full. There you go. That's it. Done deal. All right. That's it. She's full and she's squatting. I went around this morning and set tire pressure to make sure we weren't low on anything. I want to go real gentle.
Come on, baby. Don't you know I'm the silver bullet? I never slow you down. Let's go. There's something about rocking it down the road with 500 pounds of water behind you. It just feels good. I don't know what it is. There's something about it. Maybe I'm just addicted to water. I guess it could be worse.
See the barrel starting to suck down. I'll let air in now. So it was leaking a little bit before. And it's dripping a little down here. I should probably tweak that tight again. There we go. So gravity feed down to the tank, because that's the easiest way to do this without having to rearrange fittings again to make it all work. We just gravity feed down. I back the machine out to stretch the hose to the proper length. Made that easy. Fortunately, we got a nice hill here to help us. I love that gravity. Use it for yourself, you know. So the three-way valve is open to allow flow in from here. This is actually the discharge side of the pump, but trying to make sure I don't have my finger on the mic. Realize I've been doing that. This is the discharge side of the pump. We're just letting the water flow back down and into the tank so it can fill the tank. Once the tank's full, or mostly full, we'll go back and we'll mix up the nutrients that we're going to add. I'll go over that in a bit, what I'm going to put down and why. And then we go deploy it with the hose and spray it on. And it's basically a foliar feed and drench. So it's nutritional supplements for plants, as well as some inoculants, some Spectrum DS, and some BioCoat Gold, and some Pepsine PZ1000. The PZ1000 is usually used as a foliar feed, primarily to enhance potassium availability, but I figure it doesn't hurt to throw it down. Potatoes are high potassium users, and I figure if the biology is active in the soil and on the plant surface, it can propagate if the conditions are right. So we'll put it down. I don't know that that will have any effect. The other two definitely are excellent for setting up soil. And then in combination with that, I'm going to use some Rejuvenate and some C-Stim. So let's just talk about what we're going to put in. So as you can see, these products here are all all advancing eco agriculture products. That's advancing eco agriculture. And I slowed that down so much because people say I say that too fast, and I probably do because I say it all the time. But this is by no means the only place you can get nutritional supplements to do this job. This just is the company that I work with, and I feel like they're really setting the industry standard. And so I want to run with the people who are leading the pack, not following the pack or in the pack. So that's why I work with AEA products, because these guys are developing some really top-level regenerative ag-based science. And they're doing it scientifically with testing, and I really appreciate that. There's no bro science here. It's about real, true science and real, true scientific approach. All right, so that's off the table. So I'm using the Advancing Eco Agriculture product line, and I'm using these particular products. Each of these I'm using for specific reasons. So I'm going to go through each of these and why. So one reason why you never go out expecting to win right off on anything, which is always the job before the job. I had left this valve open because I haven't used this pump in forever, and I forget how to operate it basically. So it was leaking some of our flow coming out. So I come back down and see the water flow. I was like, we got a leak already? But no, I just left this valve open. Again, this is set up so I can intake suction from a water supply up to 8 foot vertical below where I'm working. I can intake suction from irrigation tanks, from any other source, basically, very easily. And then I can shut that valve and go off of this tank and pull my foliar feed and distribute that. Again, with a filter in the way so that we don't clog the diaphragms on the pump. And on the output side, 2 outputs. One that circulates back so we can mix our nutrients nice and uniform, and the other one that outputs. And now with the 3-way valve, we can actually mix and output at the same time, which is kind of handy. Something I've wanted for a long time. So while that's filling, Accelerate. I'm using Accelerate because it is complete trace mineral and hormonal nutritional support for plants. It does a tremendous amount of stuff to enhance flowering, fruiting, root set, all of those reproductive sort of parts of the plant life cycle. And this I use very sparingly. I have to do some calculations still, but maybe I'll share my calculations when I get done on what I actually put down. You can also see this is high in calcium, 1.4% calcium, and some phosphorus and some manganese. All of those, if you've been paying any attention, are very good for establishing plants, especially rooting, and establishing healthy cell walls of plants and all those sort of things, as well as supporting good photosynthetic action. Okay, so this is sort of a hormonal and complete trace mineral support to get things started and get our soil fire lit. This is something called Rejuvenate. This is basically humates and some sugars, some complex sugars, and I think there's some other stuff in there too. It's more complicated than that, but this is an excellent formula to help rejuvenate soil and bring soil back into enhanced plant health very rapidly. And it helps accelerate microbial community reproductivity and a bunch of other stuff along those lines. So what we're basically using this for is to enhance the soil microbial activity right off the bat very rapidly and accelerate that process. So these two together now, you know, with the trace minerals and the acceleration, right, that's a nice boost. I know it's probably confusing that I'm saying acceleration under Rejuvenate, but what we're doing is adding sugars and humates, and that'll vitalize those microbial communities for us. Okay, and then over here we have C-Stem. C-Stem is a virgin liquid seaweed concentrate from a cold northern kelp. And it is not dried, it is kept in a liquid form. And why is that important? Because that preserves the enzymes and many of the other live constituents that would otherwise be destroyed in the drying process. So we're actually carrying all those enzymes right straight through and keeping them active and capable, and then that makes them available to our plants and soils and our soil microbial communities right off the bat immediately. They don't have to assemble those proteins and trace minerals and get those enzymes together. They're existing in the solution already. All right, and so then another one I'm using here is called Sea Shield. And I should just mention very quickly that these are typically used together, the Sea Shield and Rejuvenate, in the fall or in the spring as a soil treatment. They both help break down lignin matter, like stuff like this, grass, corn stalks, those really harder lignin matters that take much longer to break down. They help break those down, and they help enhance soil microbial activity. And when I use these on the old farm on Mountain View Road, I actually I use these 2 or 3 years in a row in the fall, and the third year I was actually pulling out yellow dock right straight by the stalk, entire root, and they were a good 18 inches down into the soil, and that soil was tight, hard clay, just like this stuff when I started. May 20th, 2019. So a couple of videos ago I did a video on regenerative agriculture. The soil is currently tilled. It will be back in heavy leaf canopy and mulch as soon as I can get it planted and mulched. You can see the soil differences here between the dark and the light. Go check out that video, regenerative agriculture something. I'll put a link in the description. But this section here was worked just like that section was, same amount of time, no mulch on this until last year, and it was only grass mulch, no leaf mulch. That, where the garlic was about 6 or 8 inches of heavy maple leaf mulch. This only had corn in it. Let's see, the first 2 years we had corn in here. Last year we had peppers and potatoes in here. And usually on this property we have a lot of yellow dock around here. And I find a lot of this, and usually when I find it and try to pull it, it won't pull. But this soil have loosened up so much in just 3 years of work here with foliar feed nutrition and sequestering carbon and building biology and trace mineral nutrition that I can actually pull these out now. And I was so impressed that I had to come out and just take a shot of it. You can see how deep that is. We're on a very hard clay soil here, so anywhere where the soil hasn't been loosened up through plants and you know, good soil microbiology and activity and soil health, the soil is very hard here, and you really can't pull anything out. I thought this one was pretty good. Usually when I go to pull one of these, it'll break off about here and the rest of this root stays in. And if you know about yellow dock, that grows back and it keeps coming back every time you do that, and it takes forever to beat it out. Or you got to dig it out, or you got to just keep planting over it and weeding it, clipping it, whatever. So I thought this monster one would be a good test. This is actually one plant. You can see what a sturdy root that has developed on it, and it was buried in the ground here good, solid, and I just I yanked it out, which, like I said, I've never been able to do that around here before. And so let's just look at how the soil is. Look at that. We got a nice aggregate in here, and you can even see a little some kind of centipede, millipede there in the soil. So we've changed the soil tremendously in just 3 years using foliar feeds, trace mineral nutrition, and good biology, and good practices, and of course no chemicals. So I just wanted to show that and show that difference. That is a tremendous difference to me, and I hope that resonates with someone else. Thanks for watching the Pharmacy Seeds Network. Tremendous soil building and soil depth ripping capacity. Now, you know, it wasn't just these. I'm also growing healthy plants. I'm putting calcium sulfate down and balancing that soil nutrition. I'm putting biology in. I'm keeping mulches on. You know, there's all other processes going, but these are a great way to really help accelerate those processes very rapidly. And then the other one that I'm using here, as far as nutritional supplements goes, is MicroPack, and this is kind of similar to the Accelerate, except that it's more aimed at just supporting trace minerals nutrition. All the major ones: sulfur, boron, cobalt, copper, manganese, molybdenum, and zinc. And all of those are super important for both the biosynthetic process, or the biochemical sequence of nutrition in plants. Maybe I'll throw a snapshot of that in here just so you can follow along. And also very useful for supporting and accelerating photosynthesis and many other processes. Like zinc and manganese are a big part of how water gets bound into the process during the photosynthetic process. Copper helps accelerate part of the precursor to the photosynthetic process. All these pieces are like part of that chain. So if you make those all available, then there's no restrictions in the chain. Everything has everything it needs, and now there's nothing holding it back, right? There's no deficiency of one particular nutrient. And of course, as always, we're trying to put this down in a balanced fashion. We don't want to put down too much of any one thing and take our balance out the other way. And in fact, that's a mistake many growers make on a regular basis and probably don't even realize it. And one I was making on a regular basis back before I started to learn better practices and come to understand soils and soil health better. So I hope that's helpful for someone. Now let's take a look at inoculants. Well, I hope you will disregard the mess in the car, but this is a point that I really need to make about storage and handling of inoculants. And I should mention about the nutritional supplements as well, but the inoculants are especially sensitive. You'll notice I have these under a sweatshirt. That's to protect them from direct ultraviolet light and sunlight. And they're also in containers that are not, not allowing ultraviolet light directly through easily. These come out here to do this inoculant job, and they go right back in a dark, cool cupboard as soon as I get home. I'm very careful about that, because these are very expensive inoculants that, like we're buying them by the acre here. So, it adds up. This one I did take out of its original package and put it in glass. I just wanted it to be more accessible, and those bags sometimes can get stuck, and then you end up with a bag that's stuck open, it gets moisture in it, and then you lose your inoculant. So it's in glass, but I pull it out, use it, and like I said, it goes right back in a dark cupboard away from ultraviolet light, heat, and anything else that would destroy biology. So first off, the three products are BioCoat Gold, Spectrum PSB, and PZ1000. And I was calling it Pepzyme 1000, but that's an entirely different product, and we'll talk about that another time. But this is PZ1000. So the BioCoat Gold is an excellent, just general purpose inoculant. It has a lot of the rhizotype bacteria in it, and they're really good at fixing nitrogen. It also has a wide range of other species in it, and I find this to be a super duper supercharger product. And years when I've forgotten to put this inoculant down in the spring and just put my foliars down, and then came back and put the biological inoculant, the BioCoat Gold, down, within a week my crops go this dark green blue. It's an evident dramatic change in plant health. So I can't recommend this stuff enough. It's amazing. It's also expensive. I think that was $100 and some, that jar right there. But it's worth every penny, and that'll last a long time. You know, like a couple of scoops of that into a 55-gallon tank does the whole block. Spectrum PSB is another one. We're basically just aiming at setting up our soil nutrients to be, you know, fully balanced and have the full microbial communities that supports all of those different functions, so that those communities can interact with each other at the most efficient rate. And then the PZ1000 I usually use for enhancing potassium availability, usually as a foliar feed. And usually on like tomatoes and stuff like that, if I'm having a little potassium deficiency, in addition to a slight potassium amendment like Hollow K or something like that, I might also add some PZ1000, or I probably would run that first now, knowing what I know, because I've seen that do tremendous things as well. So those are the inoculants. I don't know as much about them as I would like to think I do, but I know that they work really well, and I know that they're consistently reliable. And I know I've tried many other inoculants that were not consistent or reliable, and these are. And so they say Tanio products, but basically they were developed by a man named Bruce Tanio, who was a mentor for a man named John Kempf, who is the founder of Advancing Eco-Agriculture. And so Tanio products are now carried by Advancing Eco-Agriculture. And you can find all their stuff on their website at advancingecoagriculture.com. So shameless plug. Those guys are awesome. They make awesome products. Support what they do so they can make us better farmers. Let's keep it rocking. So this bird just gave me a verbal lashing like I've never had. And then flew off over here. Beautiful bird. Calling away. Thought I would see if I could get a shot. There he is. So I got it hooked up. I plugged power off of the car for now. I don't have the charger set up on the Massey yet. That's on my list of chores to do, things to fix. I got a line set up for discharge. I bought a 100-footer so I can have a good range. And I'm going to soak these plants down quick because these have been out of the lab for a couple days and various levels of moisture. So I'm going to soak them good, but then they're going in later tonight. But I want to get this foliar feed down and get my noisy part of my job done earlier in the evening so I don't disturb neighbors, because I'm sure they want to sleep and rest and not hear me running machines. So I'm going to take care of this real quick, but I'm set up to mix. Like I said, the three-way valve lets us mix back through, and then we can just mix back into the tank. And then what I'm going to do is take the hose after I purge the plastic and phthalates out of the brand new hose, and I'll fill this bucket up and I'll put my nutrients in here, and then with the straw and this valve set up, I'll uptake those nutrients and blend them in with the rest of the barrel, and then I'll go do my foliar feed with it. So that's the sequence. Yes, it's getting dark. It takes a while to get everything set up and mixed up and all. Used to have this on a cart on the farm. Go back and look at my foliar feed pump video. You'll see the setup there. I was able to just pull up by the ram pump, dump 15 gallons of water into the cart, put my mix in and roll out. I'll have that set up, scaled up here, of course, but I have a similar setup to that here. It's all said and done. But for now, it takes a little extra time to get running. So I just took a 5-gallon bucket. I put my mix in there with a bunch of water. Yes, there's a little remnant in there, but I circulate everything through. I'm running a circulation cycle now. Pump does about 5 gallons a minute. The barrel is 55 gallons. I figure we give it like a good 5 or 10 minutes and let it really circulate good. And I have a stronger concentration in the hose, so when this is done circulating, I'll go back and I'll pump the hose back into the barrel and we'll circulate back through that too, just to get everything totally uniform. And then I'm gonna have to, because this barrel isn't open top, I'll have to crack a little crack in here to let air in as we're pumping out of the barrel. As you can see, we're already starting to suck the barrel down a little bit from when I was letting some water out. And we don't want to collapse our barrel in the process. So we're almost there. This, believe it or not, is the long part. Now that we're set up, especially with the 100-foot hose, I'm pretty much going to be able to walk down here and shoot on the crops in a very short period of time and be done. And onto planting tomatoes and peppers, which I've brought up and given a good soak with some water. And they're long overdue to go on the ground, a lot of stress on them, and I probably will go back and put some regular seeds in direct sow, and maybe we'll get a chance, depending on deer and season and all, to see the comparison between seeds that were stressed and held back and seeds that were direct sown, and how much greater yield capacity the direct sown have over seedlings that were stressed during early critical points of influence, which have the greatest effect on yield and plant health for long term. Got the crab Carlton. That's how you know when it's full. When it's full.
On the camera. But it's a beautiful foggy night, and the hayfield smell is just fantastic. It reminds me of the farm up in the Catskill Mountains. It's a beautiful evening. And I've got some tomatoes and peppers to put in, and I gotta finish foliar feeding turmeric, ginger, and holy basil, so I'm gonna get that done. Rock and roll. I suppose when we go with little humps here, I'll let you have a sense of what it's like to haul 500 pounds of water in the Subaru Outback. So you can actually see the water slosh the car back and forth on the ruts here. So that's why I say we gotta be real careful going down the road with that load. It's a pretty heavy load to carry in such a lightweight suspension vehicle. But, you know, we manage. All right, we're back. Now I'm gonna have to drive out through the top after I plant that, which makes me really glad. We went through the other day and it's clear. I got a few more branches up, and it's a much more drivable lane through, which would be nice. All right, I got time.
All right, so we're back here. I rolled the massey up here to the upper block where the turmeric and ginger and holy basil are, and I've come back with another barrel of water so I can water plants in and rinse my hands and, you know, just manage stuff you would normally have a faucet for. So we don't have a faucet, but we do have a faucet because now we have 55 gallons of water ready to do its thing. So that's kind of handy. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. Like I said, we'll engineer our way out of this equation pretty quickly. But for now, this is a good temp system. And I've got a whole bunch of tomato plants that I pulled out of the lab. They have been stressed horribly in the lab in the last week or so or two. And I'm just going to plunk some in and turn them on and see what to do. And I may go back and put some other seeds next to them, direct sown, and we'll see what they do. But I got to see how time and everything else goes. So it's about 2 a.m. I've been working. Got some foliar drenches down here on the turmeric and ginger. And I got a bunch of tomatoes in, all down next to the turmeric and ginger, all the way down the row, over 100-foot row, 120, 130, somewhere in there. Same on this side, row of tomatoes running, starting here at the rock, leaving space for the roadway to cut through here still. Got to grade that back clean. But then from there on down, tomatoes. And you can see I did a foliar drench, and then I'm going to go back after I flush out. You can hear them flushing. I'm going to pull these back tonight so the deer don't get them, because I want to see for sure that they don't just come in and nip these all out before I put everything out. So I put some out. I also don't think I'm going to put as many as I was going to put out. Don't mind the barrel buckling as it fills back up with air and water. And these are the King Arthur peppers. I will give you a close-up of King Arthur peppers. I know it's dark, but I want to get a few clips for this. And there's a tomato. And you know, obviously they go down in a row. And then you can see the turmeric popping. Multiple turmeric popping. So they're kind of blended together. You know, we'll see how it all works out, but it's kind of a haphazard planting year this year. But you will see the holy basil is perking right up and popping right up. So that's encouraging. And I rediscovered another seed cache that I'd put away in the process of reorganizing, rebuilding, recleaning, etc. And so those are going to come out and be put in all about as well. So that's awesome. All right, I guess I'll just do a quick update. Yeah, you can see the ginger here all along. I apologize for the sort of shaky camera work. And then, yeah, flushing out the foliar pump. Put another round of water back. Might have already mentioned that. And I'm just going to take all that flush water and water everything in here pretty well, basically. And then I'm going to call it a night, because tomorrow the head gasket comes to the fore. I've got other work to do as well, etc., etc. You know, busy. I guess I'll just leave you with a shot of the flush. Yeah, it's pretty handy when you get it set up right. Pretty handy. Hey, remember, keep your friends close and your farmers closer. Cheers.